this number, when maybe come back up to me after and we can, so.
I think you're really good at adapting, because I think you're under the assumption that everything will go smoothly and you just kind of present like the information that you have, and I was like, oh my god, I've never heard of it. So you drew a picture, and that's before you started back to the basics and first principles. I think your ability to chat and adapt is good.
I had a quick question. I wasn't sure if I misheard. The osmolar gap and the anion gap, were you equating in some way? Or
No, I didn't mean to be.
No, she was saying that if you had an abnormal osmolar gap, what else might be helpful?
Oh, God, sorry.
Would be to look at the anion gap because certain things have both.
Yes, sorry, I missed it.
No, but that's an important miss. Yeah, no, that is what I was trying to say. You're like, no, that's not correct.
No, I back here.
Yeah. No, good, Suzanne, thank you. Thank you. And let's see, do you want to? Yeah.
He's attending tonight.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Al-Said.
You worked hard for that title.
I was just promoted a while ago to attend. Okay, so let's give an example. A 5-year-old boy who you just admitted today with bronchial asthma, and he's on, like, let's say, ventilating Q hour. What will you do for him?
Monitor regularly.
Excellent. So how would you monitor him?
The vitals, but also how physical symptoms.
Sorry. You will monitor for what?
Like respirate, other breathing, difficulties in breathing, work breathing,
Okay.
heart rate changes.
Oxygen saturation.
Yeah.
Excellent. And depending on this monitoring, what will you do usually as a consequence of it?
Well, I want to know if you looked at all this stuff and then you gave the Ventolin, whether or not the Ventolin was having any effect on all those parameters.
So which parameters will you follow? Anyone else?
I follow oxygen saturation pretty closely, and then you can
Respirate.
put oxygen.
Respirate.
So,
Work.
so for example, both of you saw the same patient.
There should be, isn't there, I think there's like a clinical scoring algorithm. I don't know what it's called. I know the nurses use it. But I don't remember exactly what's on it.
So excellent. So the purpose of this score is what? To standardize at least the practice. So this is one of the tools that we use in pediatrics to follow up asthmatic patients. Do you know any tool? Excellent. So the PRAM is a mnemonic for what exactly? Yes. No. So it's a PRAM. It was standardized in the beginning for the preschool. As preschool respiratory assessment measure. But then I don't want to bore you regarding the research, but they extended it to for a 2-year to a 17-year-old patients. So what measures do you usually follow up with the PRAM?
Respirate.
Excellent.
Accessory muscle use.
No, respiratory rate is not.
No. Accessory muscle use.
Okay. So what accessory muscles?
The intercostal
So we usually follow 5 things.
With regards to accessory muscles?
No.
Oh, generally, okay.
Generally for it. The auto saturation. And regarding the auto saturation, you give it into 3, you divide it into 3 points. either he will have a normal which is more than 95, and in this situation you will not give him any points. For the autosat, you divide it into 3. Above 95, between 95 and 92, and below 92. Okay, so for the above 95, you will not give him any points. Here you give him 1 point, and here you give him 2 points. You said the muscles or suprasternal muscle. For the suprasternal, is it absent or present? In the absence, you will not give him any points. In the present, you will give him 1 point. Scalenal muscles, one of the muscles used also as a refraction, that will reflect, he will have an increase in the respiratory rate. In this situation, if it's present or not, like the suprasternal. The airway, you will auscultate. If there is no wheeze, you will not put any points for him. If there is wheeze only in the base, you will give him 1 point. If it's base, if it's base and the apex, you will give him 2 points. And if it's audible, you will give him 3 points. The airway. The wheeze, if it's absent or present. If it's absent, you will not give him any points. If it's in the apical area, if it's expiratory, you'll give him 1 point. If it's inspiratory plus expiratory, 2 points. If it's audible, 3 points. And depending on this, you'll divide patients into 3 categories. Either mild, moderate, or severe, depending on the points they have. If it's between 0 and 3, it's a mild. So in this situation, you can decrease the management. If it's moderate, between 4 and 7, and if it's severe, 8 to 12 points. Have any questions, or you want me to repeat any point?
What do you do once you've done that?
As a consequence, it depends on the management. You'll, if it's a mild, you will go a step down with the patient. If it's a moderate to severe, you'll go up with the management.
So when do you notice they the same? When do you notice they the same for the current management? Like if they're on the Q2, how do you know to keep them on Q2?
Not sure. I'll reveal this. Any other question?
With I've seen something, I think it's used on the words, it seems that as at some point the nurses can start making those decisions. Is there a rule around that?
Usually, if it's depends on the duration that he's receiving, the frequency he's receiving the Ventolin. If it's more than 1.5 hours, the nurses have the right to change the. And it's a policy depending on the place where you're working on.
How do you score if they're on oxygen?
I'm not sure really.
I think it's the
They're
same.
automatically on oxygen. The score is taken by the room air sound. So if they were put on oxygen, it's
Split up. Sure.
because that's why.
And then I think there's a
Thank you.
column on there.
Any comments or on feedback for Cody?
I will give myself the feedback. I would prefer to do it in a PowerPoint to show them as a video how the suprasternal, how the scalenal muscles and everything else, and to put figures so they will remember. People are usually visualize people. And I have a very bad handwriting, so I did not write.
Yeah, I think the visual, like even drawing a table, even though it might take you a little bit of time, I would use some of that time just to draw so that people can follow visually what you're saying, because it's easier. Whenever you're doing a score like that and you have multiple parameters, it's easier to
You did the first one, and I was like, oh, I understand. And then the other ones just went on your fingers, and I was like, but I want to know the rest of them.
And I disagree. I don't think that you have to have, I mean, I agree that the table is nice. I don't think you need PowerPoint, and I think that we do lots of teaching where you can take a piece of paper and then the resident say, can I take this piece
So true. Well, and I think too, like, I know for myself, sometimes I feel like I'm taking a long time to draw something out, but like those pauses are important for the person who's learning to like review it in their head or make sure they have it, or it's like you were writing, and if, as Karen said, if you kept doing that, you actually would have had the same result. Or even like calling someone up there and being like, okay, so they're breathing heavily, or looking, or like pointing, or.
Sure. I don't know how other people feel about this, but I also feel that my writing on the whiteboard is sometimes atrocious, and I feel guilty about it because it makes the teaching worse. And
But Suzanne's offer is correct.
So-
It's somebody else.
yeah, like you can call someone else up to do the writing. It doesn't just have to be the
But
physical
even-
exam. They can draw a table while you teach about it or talk about it. Also, so you're not like facing the board.
And I've definitely taken the sheet of paper that I can't read, but I remember, I
Yeah.
looked at it soon after, and I've just written my own next to it, being like, that scribble there is a liver, and this is what's happening. And then when I go home,
Yeah, and even when it's on the board and it's poor handwriting, because you are saying what you're writing, I know what it means. Even in that like 5-10 minute context, I understand. This is coming from someone with good handwriting, so like I'm okay with it.
Excellent, okay. I'm going to give Jonathan 5 minutes just to prepare something, because his topic was the same. I was planning on dividing you into 2 groups, but I thought it would be a bit noisy. So I'm going to give him a new one that we haven't done, and give him 5 minutes, and then we'll let him do so.
And there are cookies that are moving around.
they're so yummy. I've never had those before.
Yeah, I thought it was fried. Yeah. I think that side needs, I think
There is a sauce.
kind of.
Sorry, they're really delicious. You guys gotta have some.
Are they the same? Yeah, they are the same.
Yeah.
But this box, one of the boxes, has fewer cookies in it. This one has one.
Oh, take this one. I think this is for you. Oh, I'm not sure. I promise I only ate 2. I promise.
Literally, they just two. Is it cold? This one is. It is gotten cooler. It's like you're mucking it and then. Yeah. Is there time for washroom break? Yes, you got 5 minutes.
Going for a while and took that holiday like a week and a half. Yeah. Still don't get over that
Did you get that? The cost schedule? When is this supposed to be?
No. Oh. No.
I had only one day in a lot of time. It's not their fault. It's I understand scheduling for lots of people, but when I had one day, it was happened to her to write. I lived in Jenny, out of province, and cannot be here. And I just want to stays that I so I was just like,
And they knew that.
so I just wrote, I was like, I don't know if this is possible, but like, and because of like a marriage group, we've done a marriage group, so there's all these rules around like you can do a shift today, but you can't do a shift within 24 hours. So if I started at 11 today, I couldn't start at 8 tomorrow morning. I have to start at 11 or later. But then it gets hard because you can only like, not only you can other people the next day, but you have to like make sure they have those breaks. Anyway, so I just was sending an email. I was like, hey, I don't know if it's possible. I literally can't, like physically can't be here for one day the whole time. But here's someone who I think could probably switch. And if not, I would take any other day. I just hate being that pain in the butt. I didn't tell you. Oh, I just got on my emerge schedule, and there's only one day, like actually one day I cannot work. Physically, not humanly possible, will not be in the province, and I am getting put on the shift for that. But because of the way my shifts are around it, I can't even just switch to the next day, so it's kind of like, anyway, it's fine, but I just hate being that. And it's not as straightforward as just switching with a normal person on a normal schedule, because their scheduling is so weird.
Yeah.
I just want our call schedule because I want to go watch skating. I need to book tickets, but I won't book them until I know I'm not working.
I know, I need to start booking.
Someone's coming. Oh, 2 unrelated. I have not bought tickets to Come From Away or the ballet because I figured like people would want to wait till we had a bit of a better idea and we got closer to the time. I feel like it's getting to cutting point though if we want to actually have tickets to those things. So I was thinking maybe on Monday next week or Tuesday we could sit when we're like, we have one of those breaks and like legitimately do it. Do you want a ticket? Do you not want a ticket? Buy a ticket. I will buy the ticket. Like, Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
And then making sure that there's like a reasonable number of people. Like if all 11 of us went, I mean, I guess technically they could figure out the call schedule so that that worked, but like that's a little rough to tell the truth.
Yeah. And or like on a in most cases, I don't think there's anything that all of us want to or can go
That's
to.
true.
And like really like a lot of the things we pick dates for were during the week, so that max would be 1 or 2 of us on, but at least that way in advance, like we can all follow our schedule. But meant to say that history. Oh, and the other thing is, legitimately lobster? Am I buying lobster? I happily can do it, and we can cook it on Monday. I just don't want to buy lobster and then I'll cook it and save it. I don't want to do it if people actually can't do it. We could also have it as a cold lunch here on the Tuesday, but that'd be messy as heck, and you wouldn't be able to have it with
And it
it.
would smell like lobster.
It would smell like restaurant. So like in New Brunswick, I often eat. I can do that. Monday night? Okay, so I'm gonna pick up
I will be
lobster
good.
on Sunday, we will cook it on Monday.
I'm down.
Okay, and I might, maybe someone can buy like a Costco potato salad or something. It's really good. I'd like to say I'll make a meal, but it's not gonna happen.
You're working on the lobster.
I'm working on the lobster and I fly in at 12:30 that night, so I don't think it's quite possible. Okay, lobster it is.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Jonathan, one of the Pete's residents. We are going to quickly talk about fluid replacement for a child. And specifically, if we want to think about a case, think about a little 1-year-old guy who's coming in to the Emerge with a gastro that we know about and is dehydrated. So why don't we start with how we would decide someone's dehydrated and how much dehydration our little one has. So does someone want to say, what are our big categories for dehydration?
How much is coming out? 2 years?
Okay.
Moderate.
Yeah, so usually when we think about it, we think about it in mild, moderate, and severe. Okay, and so how do we classify children as mild, moderate, and severe?
So it's like a clinical estimate based on your, like, this close down.
Perfect, so it's a clinical estimate, but when we do a clinical estimate, what types of things are we looking at? Someone else wanna, what's one thing that we look at?
Mucous membranes.
Mucous membranes, okay. So what would membranes look like in someone mild? Maybe normal. They would be normal, moderate, a little bigger, and severe, very dry. Okay, what's another thing that we look at?
Vital.
Skin. What does skin look at in mild?
Like,
Normal, okay. So like tenting, is that what we're talking about? Yeah, okay, so you'd have increased tenting, I guess we could say. And severe?
Permanent.
Say more. Okay. What about our vitals, Flora?
So you classify based on both the heart rate and the blood pressure. So initially with mild, still might be normal, or mildly tachycardic.
Yeah.
Moderate is when they become tachycardic.
Okay.
And for severe, they're usually still tachycardic. And then you look at the blood pressure parameters.
Okay, so what would the blood pressure be?
So the first one would be normal.
Yeah.
Moderate is usually still normal.
Yeah.
Or they could be hypertensive as well. And then in severe, that's when they start to fall.
Okay, and what might be farther apart in this moderate EP?
So their pulse pressure.
Yeah,
widens.
perfect. And then what about respiratory rate? It would be normal. For moderate, would it be? It depends a little bit on why the child is dehydrated, but it could be increased, and it could be increased here, depending on what the presenting platelets. Okay, so there are a lot of things, and there are more than this that we could evaluate a child's dehydration on, but let's move on for now because I think you guys have a good sense. What are the percentage of weight that we think the child has lost in terms of water for these categories?
369.
Sorry, 3, 6, 10?
369.
3, 6, 9. Okay. Does everyone agree with that, or?
It seemed different.
I've seen 5, 10, 15.
Yeah, 5, 10, 15.
I think diabetic patients, you go with the 369.
Some people will say like mild is like up to 5%, and then 5 to 10%, and then greater than 10% is severe. So it's a little, and all the estimates are different because this is clinical judgment and not an actual measurable thing for every patient. Okay, so for our patient with gastroenteritis, let's say we scored them on this and we think that they're somewhere in here, and so we estimate that they have 10% weight loss, or 10%, they're 10% dry. What are we going to do in terms of managing their fluids? And let's say that they're 10 kilograms.
It would partially depend on, well, we want to be getting fluids in, but it partially depend on how awake and aware they are. Like oral fluids is always better too than.
Yeah, perfect. So we prefer to replace via the oral route,
But 10% is pretty high, so we're probably doing.
okay, so they need that 10% back in them, and that can either be oral or through an IV formulation. For calculations, it's always a little bit easier if we do IV fluids. So how fast are we going to give them that 10%?
First 16 hours. And the other half.
They benefit from a bolus to start with.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that we can give it to them. If they are needing fluid right away, then we can give them a bolus, and that will account for part of that. And if they are pretty clinically stable, then we can replace it over like 24 hours or something that is more physiologically normal for them. What is 10% of 10 kilograms?
1 kilogram.
Yeah. And so how much fluid would we be replacing? Because we don't replace fluid in kilogram units.
1 liter.
1 liter. Okay. So if we multiply 10 kilograms by our 10%, we get 1 liter or 1,000 liters. And so that is to replace our fluid deficit, and we're going to decide whether we do it partially in boluses or over 24 hours. What other fluids are we going to need to be thinking about for that child?
Maintenance.
Maintenance. Okay. So what's maintenance for a 10 kilogram?
40 cc.
Okay. So our maintenance is 40 cc's.
Susan, how'd you get that number?
Because there's a really neat rule that I use all the time, the 4-2-1 rule. And so for the first 10, for each kilogram of that first 10. Jonathan, do you want to say this part?
Well, I was going to focus on the deficit replacement and not the 4-2-1, because that's really good teaching that could also be 5 minutes long. So maybe we'll say that we did that last week.
Cool. Okay, sorry.
But,
Don't you remember?
Thanks for.
I wasn't here last week.
Okay, and so why don't we say, so what would if we were going to bolus this child, what would our normal bolus volume
We would
be?
do 20 milliliters per kilogram.
Yeah.
So that would be 200 milliliters for 10 kilos.
Okay. Perfect. So we could subtract 200 from here because we say that they got a bolus, so then we would have 800 mLs to replace, and we could divide this by 24. Are we going to run the same fluids for both of these things, or are we going to run different fluids?
Can you bolus with dextrose?
So yeah, so the bolus is a little bit different, but also in terms of the deficit versus the maintenance, usually for maintenance fluid we want to make sure we're giving some sugar, and for for the replacement of the deficit, you don't have to do that. Generally, because we are going to just run one fluid, it all ends up being the same.
So you're saying we could give like normal saline for the bolus and then switch to like T5 normal saline after?
Yeah,
T5
exactly.
normal?
Except that this should really be normal saline, your fluid, because you intravascularly want to replete them. Okay, I think we'll end the teaching there.
Thanks, Jen. Makes sense.
Your actual numbers were very helpful.
Yes. And it was an easy example assistant, which is always nice.
Yes.
It's so true. Often people will pick samples and they're these numbers that no one can just sit there. You can
It's just
smart people, but like in the moment you just can't, and you're like, well, you're spending all your energy trying to calculate, not learning the concept. So
I also like that you recognize that there were different approaches, and you shared that with your students, because you had a couple of different, approaches in terms of what they should do, and maybe what the better approach was, but didn't dismiss the other approaches and explain why. And that's very important when you're teaching, right? Is to be able to consider options and things like that.
And you're right, for 369 heavy, that's what we use in terms of estimating the dehydration for someone who comes in with pH. But we don't necessarily use it generalizable, and that's
Right.
just a bit of a universal protocol, but it's our
Excellent. Okay, thank you. All right, guys, I think it's a wrap. Or, no, James, did you?
yes, you did go.
Oh, yeah, of course I did. You did the clinical. I have questions for you. So just on sort of your feedback in terms of the teaching, like being put in a situation to do a small talk or a clinical, etc. Do you have any comments or things that you would like us to do differently, or that you would find helpful in those scenarios? Or because we're always trying to make things better, obviously, right?
I think in real life, the scenarios that we had were, that happens all the time. You go in and you see something you weren't expecting. But I think in the context of like practicing, learning to teach, like I think it could be a little bit much for the first time people are doing it in this context, being like measured in. So I might suggest, though, I think those things happen, doing it maybe not as the first teaching practice. Like if we had another session like this again, that would be a really good way of building on, okay, now we know how to teach in a bedside. What are we going to do when, you know what I mean? The adaptability piece.
Right, and they took a little bit of liberty, the text, right? Because when I gave them the parameters, they went above, and I actually had to intervene on the parameters. No, I don't want to speak to you. And
So I know, like in real life,
unfortunately, so that's partly my prep of them, again, just to reiterate some more, so I can definitely do that better. I think also preparing yourselves in that clinical scenario to say, sometimes the bedside exam is straightforward, and sometimes there's a little bit of a quick assessment that's done first. Neither of the kids were supposed to significantly decompensate at all, but they might have been a little bit sick still, and so you might have, had to say, oh, okay, I'm going to do a quick ABC and make sure they're stable, and then we can continue and decide our intervention and and so forth. So that was the intended, didn't exactly come across that way, and so I think that my preparation of the text as well as preparation of you guys as well, can be better.
I think it's super useful to actually have to get up and teach something and to practice that. In terms of like, I think it was fun to kind of have assigned roles, but they're not realistic. Like realistically, you're teaching to a group of your peers. And so the like prepping for 5 minutes and then like giving and teaching is like super easy when it's medical student who like, you have more of a broad range of knowledge than they do. But in terms of practicing with your peers, like even just like knowing last night and like spending 10 minutes on it at home would have like let you just round it out a little bit more.
But at the same time, I find that the 5 minutes is more realistic.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
actually going to happen.
Will ask you.
But not necessarily the teaching to your peers.
Right.
And at home, I think the catch is often no one ever does just spend 5 minutes, but the point is well taken. It's different when you know easier. And then maybe you use that to your advantage. So you're going to be teaching less and more summarized. Like,
And that was the idea. The idea, remember we talked about that sometimes teaching one or two pearls is what's important here. It's not an exhaustive discussion of the subject and the ability to say, okay, well, we'll have to look this up or we can talk about that later or whatever. But it was really to focus on that and not to be the perfect presentation of everything there is to know about, that particular topic. So I was trying to get away from that. That's why I didn't want you guys preparing at home. I wanted you to do it on the fly because I wanted to make it more like it would be
in real life.
in the scenario.
Which is also kind of a reality for, like, I think we all got here because we worked hard and whatnot, but we're also used to doing it best or being, and like in real life it can't always be that way, and so maybe it's a safe space to not perfectly explain or something, but that's still a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
So.
but it is important to know that and to also recognize, your limitations and that medicine is like that when you're in practice and you see a patient, you're not going to know all the answers sometimes, especially those first several years, and we're still learning as life goes on. 21 years later, I still see things in the emerge that throw me for a loop, and that I have to read about and learn about, and that's reality, right? Like that doesn't mean I don't have any knowledge that I can impart about the case, but I may not be exhaustive in it until I go back to the literature and see what it is and so forth. So I think that's realistic. But I was really pleased. Like, it was lovely to sit here and listen to you, to teach and to watch you guys. Like, that was really, for me, I thought, wow, that's really impressive what you did in a short period of time.
It was neat to see to see all of our collective styles. We all have different ways, and pearls, I've been teaching pearls that I know I walked away with, so that's exactly. So awesome.
I actually really like the bedside teaching, despite us being flustered, but it's not infrequent where a medical student will call you and you're on call and they're like, I'm worried, and they can't really articulate what they're worried about. Can these come? And it's one of these situations you walk in and they're not really stable.
Yeah.
So
Definitely still included, it's just
Hard
that.
for me just like going in straight like that.
Yeah.
Just I want to do it again right now because I like totally messed up.
Did you go first too? Jessie?
No, remember that
I felt the same way.
Perfect, because if you were perfect, then we wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
Right, the idea is really to just to sort of think about it, reflect on it afterwards and see where we can do, and like you said, I want to do it again, right? Because, having gone through it, you're like, oh, we do this and this and this and this and this, and that's a huge learning step.
And then to actually put it to action too, right? Because
That's
then
Yeah.
I have to be like, I should do it this way, and then I go and do it the exact same way again. I'm like, that's not what it is.
Something else is like the flustering at the time was not fun, but the next time I do it, I'll be like, well, the last time this
Went
well and this didn't, so let's try something else this time.
Good. Awesome. Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for taking this one.
So we're going to be back at 1 o'clock, so you have 45 minutes for lunch. Okay, that sounds good. Because we're going to do the journal clubs. $3.
Anybody doing anything?
Go over it.
Yes, so I'm gonna go first.
Yeah, quickly do that.
Do you want to hot dog?
Yeah.
For the discussion.
Does anyone else want a hot dog?
I would love, do they have hot dogs that aren't hot dogs?
They have vegetarian hot dogs.
Like non-beef hot dogs, I guess. Sorry. Yeah, okay. I would love a hot dog.
But Thursday?
I think we're good.
I think every day.
I did it
Every day.
Okay.
No, you only need it all. And then from cabbage.
Okay, I'll give it this.
Okay.
Josh, you want? Sorry, I was like, what are you?
I was just thinking.
Can I owe you $12?
Do you want to go me $2?
Yeah. It's like, and I actually never thought of that.
No, I have money. I think it's because I need to refill my laundry.
Does anybody want to put their laptops in the cupboard? Because I have to walk to deliver some wood.
Some people are excited.
We'll come back. We'll be really quick. I do want to grab a copy of those too, actually.
Yes.
And then I think the discussion
It should technically be what it is. You just never told me where to be. Okay. So I'll give a call. No, they're already. Okay. I'll send you
Honestly, it was really good, but
Exactly.
there were problems in like.
There's problems, but they have a large effect size.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
So, like,
And it's a low risk intervention.
yeah, and that's the big thing, because they're regulated.
And then, yeah, and then do you think, like, there could easily be a post-mortem trial?
Yeah.
But there possibly could be a
I don't know.
You don't think it's ethical?
No, it's like, oh, we think your kid could, like, oral feeding could be an option, but we're gonna put it in G-tube instead.
Well, it depends on how you assess the validity of this, like, but without this study,
Yeah.
the literature would say that there's really no knowledge in this area.
No, but it's
And then,
like,
so is this study enough evidence that it's now unethical to do MCT? That's the question, right?
that's true.
So if you say that you don't believe it, the study, then I think doing it would be.
We do
But if we
believe
do believe it, then it becomes.
That's what-
your nursing. Even though this evidence isn't great, we can't go find better evidence because now.
Or we could just do cross factor.
So we're gonna say that. That was fun. I wish we had to do those more often. Although the monitors are a little bit disconcerting.
It was
right?
very
Not every
disconcerting.
patient with a little bit of like heart failure ends up going on like full cardiac monitor.
That's very. And the fact
So then it like makes them look sicker and then the text play with it a little bit and like all of a sudden
Here's like doing this thing.
It's like, oh, it's so
you're like,
Do we have pulse?
I know, we can hear her, and then we can put,
yeah, are they perfusing themselves?
this is a cold situation.
I was like, I thought she just had a PhD.
So, like, you're not planning.
Well, I'm gonna go off of it. I just pulled
Oh, you will?
the answers into separate documents.
Oh.
Or we can like just go through the questions.